on the recording. Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting in just a moment. We'll be starting in just a moment.
Share my slides. Hit share.
Let's get started. Welcome to the February 2025 National University Speaker Series. My name is Dr. Nancy Rowland Heinrich, and I have the honor of serving as the Executive Vice President of Community Engagement for National University, as well as the Executive Director of the National University Foundation. I am proud to be the founder and host of our National University Speaker Series. We appreciate all of you joining today, whether you are currently a student, an alum, faculty, staff member, or a community member. Our speaker series is always open to interested participants. We started the speaker series in 2020 and have held nearly 50 different webinars with notable subject matter experts on a wide variety of topics. Please note that the past speaker series sessions and tonight's sessions are recorded, and you can view those. They're posted on the NU alumni website. Just want to share a little bit about National University. We were founded in 1971 by a retired U.S. Navy captain, Dr. David Chigos. The university has a very rich history of providing accessible, relevant higher ed programs to meet the needs of non-traditional working military students. Currently, almost 50% of our undergraduate students remain military affiliated. We serve more than 50,000 academic students who are enrolled in more than 120 degree programs at the undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral level. And we have a very impressive alumni network of 245,000 graduates. But today, let's get to the topic. We're excited to explore smarter minds. Our presenter today is Bill Barnett, who has multifaceted experience in his career. His many areas of expertise have been applied to his role as an entrepreneur, business advisor, investor, as well as the author of Smarter Minds: Recruit and Leverage Others for Sustainable Success. His latest consulting venture, Smarter Minds Network, is a culmination of his many years of experience in providing advice on strategic solutions to overcoming career obstacles. Following today's presentation, we will have a moderated Q&A, and I am pleased to share that Drew Schlosberg will be tonight's moderator. Drew's moderated at least a dozen of the Unused Speaker Series. Drew is the president of Extra Weekly and the CEO of Drew Schlosberg and Associates. He's also the former Community and Public Relations Director for the San Diego Union Tribune and is the host of Spotlight on the Community, the longest running podcast in the United States. He's also very active in the community and serves on boards such as Classroom of the Future, Foundation, Junior Achievement, and the San Diego Council on Literacy. But tonight, it's all about looking at smarter minds and how your network truly is your net worth. So at this time, it is indeed my pleasure to turn the program over to Bill Barnett. Audience, I truly hope you enjoy the discussion. Please enter your questions in the Q&A. Bill, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you are seeing my screen right now. It's a pleasure to be with everybody tonight. I've run several companies over the course of my career, and I've been doing a lot of speaking, and I wrote a book, as Nancy brought up before, called Smarter Minds. And I have found the easiest way to the top is on the shoulders of all other people. I have put together quite a big network, a vast network over my time, and I found that it's a lot easier to use, and I mean that in a very good way, to use the talents and smarts of other people to build your career. So the title of my presentation is A Blueprint for Success, Planning for a Sustainable Future. Okay, so there are 5 key areas that we're going to cover tonight. The first is the power of leveraging smarter minds. We're going to get into all of these slides in great detail. The second is every day as an interview, how every day a new opportunity can arise and to take advantage of it. The third, which is a question I get all the time, is should I follow my strengths or my passions? The answer is very simple and very clear. You follow your strengths. The fourth is owned versus rented money. You're probably wondering what that means, and we're going to get into that in great detail. And the fifth, and the most crucial financial decision you'll ever make, and I don't mean to get personal, but I will, is who you marry. So let's dig into it right now, because I don't think we have 40 years. I think we have only 1 hour. I'm going to give you 40 years into 1 hour. There are 5 spokes to your life. The first is your health. I know most of you have probably been on a plane and you hear the flight attendant say, if anything happens, make sure you put your oxygen mask on first. Well, that's a good lesson for life. Excuse me, for life. If anything happens to you, you cannot take care of the person next to you. You can't take care of your family. You can't take care of your kids. You can't take care of your business. You must take care of yourself first. That's the most important thing. The next is family. And you will see, and most of you have families, you'll be able to see how important your family is and how life revolves around your family. The next are relationships, because relationships are the foundation of what you build not only your business life with, but your complete life with. The next is your expertise. You need to come to the table. If you ever go to Vegas, you can't gamble with nothing. You have to have some money to start gambling with. Well, you need to have something to start building your career with, and that's your expertise. And the last is financial stability. Without financial stability, you cannot lead the life that you want to. We're going to dig into all of this right now. Let's start with every day as an interview. You never know what person is going to have an impact on your life. It could be the person that you run into at the diner when you're getting coffee in the morning. It could be somebody that you're meeting with. It could be a relationship. It can be a friend. Always put your best foot forward, because you never know what encounter is going to bring the next adventure and the next opportunity in your life. Your personal brand is built with interactions. Make sure that you're meeting and talking to the right people. The other thing that's very important for this is to make sure that you're approachable, to make sure that you're likable. People don't think about that all the time. Make sure that you're somebody that somebody else wants to connect with. You know, I always lead, I make jokes with people. And in fact, Drew and I got a chance to chat before this and meet each other. It turns out we went to the same high school. And I can't tell you how many of the same people that we knew. It already opened up the door for a good relationship. This is what you need to do with the people in your life. Make sure that you're opening the door to every possible relationship. I like to call this my 3 Ps: posture, positivity, and positioning. How you present yourself to the world. You know, I use this as a kind of a metaphor for life, but standing up straight is a metaphor for confidence. When I see people with slumped shoulders, it tells me something about them. It tells me they may not have the confidence in themselves. So why am I going to have confidence in them? Always make sure that you're standing straight up with your shoulders back, not just figuratively, but literally. Make sure that you are going in with confidence, because that's what I want to see when I'm hiring somebody, when I'm investing somebody, when I'm spending time with somebody. Um, the second is positivity. Are you somebody that comes into meetings with problems or solutions? It's good for my people to know what the problems are. I want to make sure that they're well equipped and they know what they're talking about. But are they also coming in with solutions? Are they a half glass full person or a half glass empty person? And the last is positioning. What are you contributing to my board of directors, which we're going to get into in a few minutes? What is it that you are bringing to the table that I can value? These are the 3 Ps: posture, positivity, and positioning. I know a lot of people are involved in the military with National University. And I have worked with, and Heather, who's involved with National University, knows this. She served on a board that I was involved with. It's very important that you don't hide behind what you've done in the service, but make sure the transferable skills are the things that stand out. When we started doing, I am a creative person. I produced videos for many veterans over the course of the year, helping for them to present themselves. And I started talking to some of the employers. And I said, tell me what you think of these videos. And they said, we like them, but we heard too much about the military side of it. I want to know what skills they have that are going to be transferable to help my company. So while it's important to talk about what you've learned in the military, make sure that you're talking about something that they want to hear. Make sure that you're going to talk about skills that are going to benefit their company. Because the bottom line is, if I'm hiring you, I'm there because I want to make sure you fit in with the culture of my company. I want to make sure that you're going to benefit our company financially. But the bottom line is, how are you going to make me money? So when you're talking about your skills, think about it in terms of what they want to listen to. Terms about how are you going to make me successful as an employer, and how are you going to fit into my culture? The next thing, which kind of fits into the last one, is building your personal brand. And you build your personal brand by the people you surround yourself with. One of the most important lessons that I teach young people, and actually all people throughout their lives, is building a board of directors. A key line that I have are: pick the people you trust, and then trust the people you pick. In other words, bring on people that you know have your best interests in mind, but more importantly, trust their decisions when you go to them for help. A personal board of directors, they help me avoid mistakes. Even when it's an area that I think I'm well equipped in, I have a lot of experience in, I always throw it off to other people to get their opinions. Am I looking at this through the right lens? I want to get your opinion. Consult people smarter than you when I make any decision, whether it's in life or whether it's a financial decision. Networking, and the other thing about networking, which is so crucial, it's not just for business, it's for life. I can't tell you how many people I talked to when my kids were getting into different schools, going off to college, when I'm getting involved with an investment. No matter what it is I'm doing, I always consult people that are smarter than me. And by the way, that's easy for me because almost everybody in my network is smarter than me, which I appreciate. And again, strategic assets. Think about who you can add to your board. And the other important thing about a board of directors is you want to make sure that you can be beneficial to their board. It's not just what can I get from other people, but it's what can I do for other people? What can I do for you to help make your life easier, whether it's in business or life? That's how you build a board of directors, a group of people that trust each other inside and outside the box.
Bill, can I interrupt here and ask a
Sure,
question?
sure.
And so I want to encourage our listeners that in the Q&A, just fire away with questions. Bill will take them during his chat. And of course, we'll save some time at the end of the presentation for even more questions. Going back to every day is an interview and, be approachable and likable. And great feedback you've had on this here. Talk about how important it is for people to be good listeners. We all hear, but some people just don't listen. Talk about that.
Yeah, actually, you beat me to the chase. It's a little later on in my pitch here, my presentation. But if you are listening to other people, it means that you care and you're thoughtful about what the other person is saying. Don't just come in with what you want to talk about. I always tell people when you're going in for an interview, turn it into a conversation, not just an interview. And in order to have a conversation, you need to know something about the other person. When people come into to an interview with me, whether they're looking for money or a job, and they know something about me, they know where I went to school, they know where I grew up, they knew something about some of the companies, that it shows that they have interest in me. So listening isn't just about making sure you respond correctly. It's about making sure that you show other people that you are truly interested in them.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next slide here is your network is your net worth. If there's one key slide to the entire presentation, it's this one. The people think of your network like investing. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. And I always say, and I've been saying this for a long time, friendship is my greatest currency. It's the greatest thing that I can offer the people that I work with, the people that are in my life, is friendship. Showing that I care more about them as a person and I care more about them as a relationship than it is whatever it is I'm trying to get from them. If I know that, that's part of building the trust. And building your personnel portfolio is just as important as building your personal portfolio. So we all want to build a big portfolio. We all want to have stocks, and we all want to have bonds, and we all want to have real estate. But building the people that I have to help build that financial portfolio is the way that I get there. What are your leverageable assets? What is it that you bring to the table to benefit other people? That's the most important thing, is to understand what you are strong at. But the other important thing is to understand what your liabilities are. I love when I start talking to somebody and I go to them for their expertise. One of the things that always drives me is when other people tell me, Bill, I'm really good at this and this and this, but this is an area I'm just not that good at. So I can either find the information in my network, or I just want to let you know if you've got somebody else in this area. Showing your vulnerabilities, your liabilities, is a positive. It's not a negative. When you go in for an interview, when you go in to talk to people, it builds credibility by showing what your liabilities are. The key is to be as good as you can in your field, but to be honest about the things that you are not that good at. It's really important when you're building these relationships to be trusted. And the best way to be trusted is by letting other people know, you know what, this is what I'm good at, but this is where you may want to find somebody else.
Bill, I got a question from a
Sure.
Chris Yeager. What is the distinction between your network and your community, and how do you see them impacting each other?
Well, I think your network, your community are the people that are around you, the people that surround you all the time. Your network are the trusted people that you go to for advice. That's how I capture my network. These are people that I know are in related fields or something that will affect my life personally. Those are the people in my network. My community are all the people. When I walk every day. I walk 4 miles every morning. And back to what I was saying before, I always walk with my head up. I always walk because I never know who I'm going to meet on these walks. So that's my community. Those are the people around me. Your network are the people that you know, you trust, that you know can help build your life. Follow your strengths, not your passions. This is probably a question I get as much as any question that's out there. Your passions are something that constantly change. I can't tell you how many people I knew when we were younger. They had certain passions, whether it was in real estate or stocks or sports, or whatever. And a few years later, their passions completely change. I like to joke that your passions are for your weekends, but your strengths are something that always stay with you. whether it's finance, whether it's architecture, whether it's being a lawyer, whatever it is, your strengths are something that always stay with you. And I have found the stronger I've gotten in certain areas, the more passionate I've become about them. So usually it's something that grow together. I want you to capitalize on what you do best, because that's Mr. Moneymaker. That's where you're going to make your money. That's where you're going to be successful, on the things that you do best. And the other thing that I like to recommend to people is go where the opportunities are. A lot of people say, should I take this job? Should I take this job? Should I do it? Go where the opportunities are. And I make a list. I did this with my kids when they were graduating college. What are the different areas that you think will benefit you in the future? Is it the fact that this company is a great company, and that if you go leave from there, you've got a great referral, you've got a great company that you work for? Is it the location, because that's where you want to grow your family? Is it the fact that there's certain people in the company that you know and trust? Whatever it is, go where the opportunities are. That's what will help build your career. You are what you plan for.
So Bill got,
I tell this when I
oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead there. Go ahead.
you are what you plan for. I make sure with all the, especially the young people that I'm talking to, that they know where every penny is going. Every single person on this and that I talk to, I always tell them, make sure that you have a spreadsheet. Make sure you know where every single penny is going, not just for now, but this builds your culture, this builds your habits for the future. If you know where every penny is going to, you will have a much better grasp of where you're spending money and where your life is going. Your future is a direct result of what you're planning for today. If you keep a detailed spreadsheet, and hopefully many of you have this, you'll know exactly where your money is going and how to plan for the future.
So how do you distinguish between your strengths and your passions?
Yeah.
And they can be one and the same, can they not?
They can be, but I will tell you that more often than not, that's not the truth. Drew, I know that you played basketball in high school, and I played tennis in high school, and I played a little bit in college. And that was always my passion. But my passion only took me so far. I wasn't good enough to play pro, and I was barely good enough to teach. But I knew and I'm great in a crowd. I'm great with people. So I got into sales, and then I got into production, and that's my strengths led me to my career. And again, as I said before, that I think that if you follow your strengths, you will become more passionate about what you do. And there's something that always helps people become passionate, and it's a thing called money. If you find what you're doing is making you money and is giving you the freedom to do what it is you really enjoy doing in life, you become more passionate about it.
So I got another one for you over
Yeah.
here. I guarantee we'll get to your slides,
Yeah.
but you got a lot of questions coming here.
Sure.
This is from Marie. If one's experience has been subpar or with organizations, how does one regain and recover from those past dysfunctional experiences to move forward and succeed? We've seen this before when people have worked in very bad situations and dysfunctional, they get a little bit of PTSD. How do you recover from that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had several misstarts in my career, and I've had a couple where I started a company. It took several $100,000 from investors, and it was the one major failure that I had, and that took me quite a while to recover from. And I think it's twofold. First of all, surround yourself with good people that can encourage you, people that can kind of talk you down a little bit. And again, that's part of your network. On the personal side, make sure that you have the right people around you that can give you the encouragement and talk you through the tough times. But the other thing is to always make sure you're moving forward. I try to always learn. I never forget from my failures, but I try to always learn from my failures, to try to move forward constantly and to not get down on yourself, because they always say 9 out of 10 companies fail. And you've got to get to 9 failures before you hit that one success sometimes. And it's just to always be moving forward, always talking to people, and always learning from your experiences. And by the way, don't hide from your failures. Don't be afraid to discuss them. Don't be afraid to talk about them, but be positive. Don't look back, and always move forward. I hope that helped. Next slide is we talked about know your net worth. There's a difference between knowing your network and know your net worth and knowing your net worth. And let me explain what this is. To track your financial health by knowing what your net worth is minus your investable assets. So let's take an example. So I own a house, and let's say my house is worth $1 million. And then I have investable assets, and let's say I have another $500,000. My net worth is my $500,000 that are investable assets, because I can't make money on my house. I'm living here. So I never include that in my investable assets into my net worth. The way to make money on you, and we're going to get into great detail on this in a few minutes, but the way to make money is not on things that you have assets that you're sitting on. You can't make money on your house unless you're renting it out, unless you're using it as an investment. But most people live in their house. So take that out of your net worth when you're talking about it. If you're talking about inheritance, if you're talking about giving something away, that's different. But in your life, in your financial life, keep that separate. Only discuss your net or your investable assets, your liquid assets. Owned money versus rented money. So owned money is things like your savings, your investments, your assets that belong to you. This is something that I want everybody to grasp, because this is the building block for your future. Well, what is rented money? Rented money is anything that you can lose tomorrow. That includes your salary. If you lose your job, you lose your salary. Your commissions, your bonuses, loans, credit cards, anything that's not guaranteed. The key to your young earning years is to take as much money from your rented money, meaning your salary, your commissions, and to store it into your owned money category. Because when you get to be my age, Drew's age, you want to have as much money in your own category so that you can live on something called passive income, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. That's the goal. So it's not important what you drive. It's not important what you have parked in your garage. What is important is what you have parked in your portfolio. That's important. We're going to talk about depreciating assets in a few minutes. I want you all to keep money out of the area of depreciating assets. Most of us have to have a car. We live in Southern California, but you don't have to have a Bentley. You don't have to have a Mercedes or a Porsche. You need to have something that is smart, because that extra $500 a month that you're spending on your leasing your Mercedes could be going towards your VTSAX or your VTI or any of your investment opportunities. That's what I want most people to get out of today. There's something called FIRE, which most of you have probably heard about. Financial independence, retire early. I love the concept. I don't like the wording. I've changed it around. Financial independence, private, pivot anytime. I'm not big on retirement. What am I going to do? Sit around watching reruns of Modern Family and eating bonbons? No. I want to go out, and I may want to travel. I want to spend time with my kids. I may want to go out and play golf or tennis, whatever it is I want to do, or a new investment. I want to be able to have enough money that at any day, at any time that I want to pivot, I'm able to do that. That's the goal in life, is to be able to do whatever it is that makes you happy. Whether it's sitting back and reading a book or traveling to Mazatlan, whatever it is, making sure that you are financially independent. And your core earning years are the key years to get you that when you're in your late 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s, you're able to do whatever you want because you are financially independent. Passive income. My wife and I talk about what is the greatest thing in life. Is it sex or is it passive income? We go back and forth on this. I got to tell you, there is nothing greater in life than passive income. Knowing that I've got money that I do not have to work for, because the reason is I've already worked for it. I've already put it away, and I have checks coming in every month from this investment, and this. You know why? Because I didn't spend $6 million on a house. I didn't spend $100,000 on a car. I spent money, and I pushed as much money towards my investments as I possibly could. Passive income is money that's coming in that will allow you to live the life that you want to live. Your owned money should yield enough dividend or interest income for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. The way to do that, and it's very difficult in your 20s and 30s, by the time you get to your 40s and 50s, you kind of know what your overhead is. You kind of know what your mortgage is if you have a mortgage. You kind of know what all of your expenses are. So if you know you need X amount to live, and take a 5% interest rate as a rule of thumb, although you should be able to get more than that. You take the amount of money that you want put away, whether it's 1 million, $1.5 million, 2 million or more, and then you times 0.5%, and that's what you get for your passive income. You know that you need X amount to live, you can figure out the numbers. That's an easy way to figure it out. Safely generate passive incomes, for me, the way I've done it, is through bonds, index funds, or real estate. And we can get into the types of things that we do it, but I want to tell you why I do what I do, because I keep it simple, and we're going to talk about that. Everybody knows the word KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Well, I've kind of changed it a little bit. Keep investing simple, stupid. Make sure that your investments, unless you're an investment guru, and even the investment gurus that I work with are not investment gurus. The best way to do it is to keep your investment strategy simple. A quick little story. Years ago, about 10 years ago, Warren Buffett made a bet with the 10 largest investment firms in the world. And he said, I'm going to make you a bet. I will bet you $1 million each that I can do an investment, an index fund, and I will make more money than all of you. So they had the bet. After 3 years, he was so far ahead of about 4 or 5 of them, they paid him $1 million. After 7 years, he had run past all of them so far that they had all paid him off. He beat every single smart investment fund advisor in the world based on very smart index funds investments. It's the simplest way to do it. I'm not telling you what index funds to buy, but if you go to your investment broker, whether it's Schwab or Vanguard or Fidelity, they're all very similar, and just keep putting money away in an index fund that you feel comfortable with, at the end of the day, you will have won the race. You know, they talk about the tortoise and the hare. Well, they don't race against each other. They each race their own race. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. But I will tell you, the tortoise always wins. The hare wins sometimes, and the hare may get very rich, but the tortoise always wins because they take the path of slow and steady. I've always followed that strategy. Slow and steady wins the race. To be rich, spend, spend, spend. Well, this kind of flies in the face of exactly what I've been saying, except for one small thing. Don't ever spend money on, or spend as little as you can on depreciating assets. Back to the car. The car is about the worst investment you can make. I spoke at USC about a month ago, and I got a letter from a guy, an email the next day. He says, Bill, I was going out to buy a car the night of your talk. He says, I decided not to buy that new car. I decided to buy a used car and take the additional money and put it into an index fund. And I've gotten one letter since. He says, guess what? My money's already grown by 10%. Well, it happened to be a good few weeks, and so we got lucky on that. But that car loses value the second you drive it off the showroom floor. Make sure whatever you're spending money on, you say to yourself, is this going to be worth next month more than it is today? Is this going to be worth more next year than it is today? If you feel confident that that money, then I say spend, spend, spend. I try to take every dollar I can and throw it towards my index funds or some of my real estate investments. Spend money on stocks or investments that will appreciate over time. Smart money is, am I spending money on something today going to be worth more or less 1 year from now? It's very important that everybody has an emergency cash fund. So as much as I want you to throw money towards investments, which I love, you must make sure that you've got a safety net. And the best way to do that is to have at least 3 to 6 months. So, because I like when I tell my kids this, I tell people that I speak to this, when you throw money in towards an investment, consider it lost money. I don't want you to ever think about it. I don't want you to discuss it. I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to get, that's money that is gone. I don't want you to touch it until you get to retirement. But you need to have a safety net. You never know when the car is going to break down, when your dishwasher is going to break down, when you're going to have a leak, when you're going to have an emergency medical bill. You never know. So in order to make sure that that is covered, I recommend having between 3 and 6 months of your overhead. So if your overhead is $5,000, I like you to have somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 put away in an accessible account. Even a money market may be a little difficult because you have to leave that in for 6 months. So keep it in a high yield savings account. You can find those all over now. You're making 4%, so it's making some money for you, but keep it in an accessible liquid account. Beyond that, don't put too much money in your savings account, just enough to get you through. Drew, you have a question?
Yeah, we talk about this quite a bit when we work with the schools, and we know financial literacy is now being mandated as it should. And you talk to the banks or the credit unions, and it's remarkable how many people do not save one penny. And they said, listen, it's important. It doesn't make a difference where you are in life. Always try to save something. As ridiculous as I might say, even saving $10 a month or whatever the case may be, depending on where you are. Talk about how important that is to always try to put something away.
Yeah, I kind of divide things into 3 or 4 categories. The first is debt. The most important thing is to get debt paid off as quickly as you possibly can. And we're going to cover compounding interest in a few minutes. And compounding interest is a two-edged sword. If you're making money, compounding interest is the greatest thing in the world. If it's debt, compounding interest is the worst thing in the world. So debt is the first category. The second is making sure your creature needs are covered. Your overhead is covered. So your food, your mortgage, your rent, all of your basic needs are covered. The third is what I call your safety net, your emergency cash fund. You must have 3 to 6 months. Once these three things are covered, all the rest of that money I want going towards your investment account. So those are the 4 buckets that must be covered. You must have emergency money put away. It's crucial. You don't want to go to friends. You don't want to go to family. You don't want to have to rely on anybody else. You've got to fend for yourself. Make sure you've got an emergency fund put away. Does that answer that question? All right. The next is balanced savings with living. I wanted to make sure I get this slide in here. As important as saving, as important as putting an investment account away, it's crucial that you strike a balance in your life. I want to give you a couple of examples of things in my life that I regret. The first, and they were both with one of my daughters. The first was my daughter out of college got a great job, and she started in Japan. And she was there for about 6 months. And because of a few things that I had going on, and I just was at a funny time, my wife and I decided not to go visit her. It was one of the great regrets in my life. And the other was 2 years earlier. She was in Florence studying abroad. And we had a great opportunity to go visit her there. I don't want anybody to miss these life-changing events to share with your family because you're so conscientious about saving. You've got to balance everything. So different people may go on different budgets. You could do this for a lot less money if you would plan ahead. But I don't want people to miss the key elements, the key life points in life that are really important to build memories, to build the relationships, to make sure you balance these. So I don't want everybody to think I'm just thinking about saving and investing and planning for when you're 55 or 60 or 65, because things come up when you're in your 20s. Things come up when you're in your 30s. Just make sure that you do it reasonably. Make sure that you think about how to budget these things, but make sure you do them, because it's part of building who you are as a person, is experiencing these things. Make memories, but do them efficiently. And building relationships, building them with friends and family are just as important as your savings and your later in life experiences. Right size your life. A lot of people spend more than they should on things because they're trying to either keep up with the Joneses or keep up with their best friends in college. Don't do this. It's a huge mistake. You live the life that you're comfortable living. Make sure that the money that you're bringing in, you're living within your means. Avoid overextending who you are just to impress other people, because guess what? Those people may not be there a few years from now, and you've taken money, you've spent money that you could have invested on trying to impress other people. Don't do that. Who you own, how you should live your life. Make sure that you have a financial balance, and then make sure that you always have a plan for how much you are spending. Love and marriage. It's really important. The partner that you're going to choose for life is extremely, extremely important. You want to make sure that you talk about a lot of things. Obviously, you want to talk about kids. You want to talk about careers. You want to talk about where you're going to live in life, but where you're going to live and settle down. But the most important thing is to make sure that you're in sync financially. 50% of marriages today end up in divorce, and half of those divorces happen because of financial reasons. Make sure that the two of you are in sync. And if you're not, make sure that you understand how each other is thinking so that it's easy to compromise. My mom and dad always used to tell me a story. My dad grew up in the Depression, so saving every penny was very important to him. But my mom also wanted to make sure that we lived in nice areas, and the two of them, they always compromised. And we wouldn't have grown up in the house that we did if my dad did not push my father, if my mom did not push my father to say, look, this is an area I think we need to spend in. So make sure that you're in sync. Make sure that you respect the other person's opinion. If one person is a big saver, the other person is a big spender, there's a happy medium. But start talking about it early on in your relationship, because this is the key relationship in your life, is your spouse. Hopefully this is the person you're going to be spending the rest of your life with. If you're in sync financially, all the other things seem to work out. Make sure that you talk about it, and make sure you respect each other's opinion.
Bill, let me just jump on what you just said there, which is spot on. And we had one of our attendees say the same thing, that they their marriage has done very well because they talked about this before they got married. And obviously, you don't want to be talking about this 10 years into the marriage. You should know this ahead of time. However, you're talking about something that can be very touchy and tough for people, and that's honest communication. And listen, that's not easy to do sometimes. Sometimes you got to tell people this is how you feel, no matter how uncomfortable it makes them. Talk about, how do you deal with uncomfortable communication?
Right. So it's funny. My next slide, it's not taboo to talk about money, relates exactly to your question. I think it's important in any relationship, but especially with your spouse, to make sure that you have an open dialogue about anything. And I think one of the most important things when a relationship is past first base, is to make sure that the other person feels comfortable about talking to you about anything, making them feel comfortable. Look, I'm your go-to person. And hopefully for the rest of our lives, I'm your go-to person. When you've got a problem, when you've done something wrong, when you need help, whatever it is, I am here for you. And once, my wife and I, we've been married for 42 years. There is nothing I wouldn't discuss with my wife. And I think she feels that way about me. We feel so comfortable with each other that whenever we have a problem, we're each other's go-to. So I think the first thing that you've got to get through with that question, Drew, is to make sure that the other person knows that you have their best interest in mind, that they come first. And one of the reasons that my relationship with my wife has lasted so long is because I always put her ahead of me, and she's always put me ahead of her. And I think that's kind of the important thing to a good marriage, putting each other first. And by the way, we've both always put our kids first. Our kids come first. We come next. But that's the most important thing, is to make sure that everything that you think is taboo to talk about is not. Because if it's important to you, it's important to me.
I think that's great advice, whether you're talking about a marriage, or you're talking about a colleague at work, or you're talking about, somebody that you're in business with, could be a competitor. And we all know this. Bill, you lived it, you do very well at it. And those who are successful know what I'm going to say, and that's relationships are everything. And if you can't have a good relationship unless there's honest communication, maybe you can just touch base on that a little bit.
Right. Actually, I think that's where it starts. It starts with the relationship. And I talked earlier about building trust in people. And I think that if you've got I've had a lot of partners throughout my business career. And one of the things that I've always been able to fall back on is my personal relationship with all of my partners. And so sometimes if we get into a big argument about something, we pull it away from the office. We go to a restaurant, we go on a walk, whatever it is, and we talk it through. And the first thing that we establish, and we've already established it, is that the other person's concerns are important to me. Let's talk it through. And sometimes what we've done is almost like a marriage counselor, is if we've come to a big disagreement, we'll bring in a third party that we both know and trust and has our business and our lives And so if you have that other person, you're part of your board of directors that you can talk to, it seems to always work out. I've had big problems, but I've never had a problem that's been insurmountable. And that's because you've had a trust, you have a relationship, and you have a board of directors. These are the things that help build your life and your career.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah. So the other thing, and we talked about this, it's not taboo to talk about money. Make sure that money is something, and whether you're still living at home or whether you're parents, do not be afraid to talk about money with your kids. And I started very early. When my kids were 5 or 6 years old, I always said I got my kids everything they needed, but not necessarily everything they wanted. And I told them why they didn't get certain things that they didn't get. But they built the values from a very young age. And by the way, it wasn't just about money. It was about habits that were being formed. I've never been a fan of smoking. And I always told my kids that's something you never want to do. I'm not a drinker. We talked about that. My wife does like to have a glass of wine, so they know how to moderate that. But we started forming very good habits with our kids at a very young age, And when they started working, 50% of it went right to their investments, and the other 50% went to whatever it is they wanted to spend on. A quick little story about when they wanted to spend money and invest. When they were younger, they said, "Dad, we're starting to make some money. We'd like to spend it on something." I said, "Okay, what is it you like?" They said, "Well, we like to go to the movies. We like to shop." I said, "Terrific." I said, "What movies do you like?" They gave me some movies. I said, "That movie's made by Disney. Why don't we take that money, and instead of spending it on going to a movie, I'll buy your tickets. You invest in Disney stock." So they got into the habit of learning, God, I like this, I like that. Let's start investing in companies like this. That was many years ago. Now they're involved in index funds, but they got into the habit of investing in things that they like. Make it a game. Make it something fun for your kids to do. Like, I've invested in Disney. When I go to a movie, guess what? I own part of that company. That's a fun thing for kids to do. So it's never taboo, and it's never too early to start talking about money. Final thoughts. Surround yourself with smarter minds. Make sure that as you're building your Rolodex throughout your life, you're surrounding it with people that are smarter than you, that can add to your life's circumstances in life. Every day is an interview. Every day is an opportunity. You never know who you're going to meet. Make sure you come in with your head up. You make sure you come in with a smile, because that's welcoming. You want to make sure that you're somebody that other people want to get involved with. And if you're smiling and you're looking up and you're engaging, people will want to engage with you. Understand finances and understand your credit score. Understanding your credit score is crucial because it will make your life cheaper to live. When you're buying a car, when you're buying a house, when you're going out and getting a credit card, your interest rates will be a lot lower if your credit score is higher. Follow your strengths, not your passions. Make sure that you are doing something that can match up with making more money, and that's by following your strengths. And spend and invest wisely to build wealth. Make sure that you've got the funds that you feel good about, and you keep socking money away. A life with money is a life that gives you freedom and it gives you choice.
Spot on that. I got a question from someone who's in our attendance, and then I got one for you myself. This is not for me. This is from the person that's been listening to your chat. Should I pay off my student loan?
Yeah. You want to pay that off as soon as you can. I talk about this with students all the time, and they build up. It's one thing that you can never erase. Even when you declare bankruptcy, you cannot erase student loans. So my suggestion is, and I don't know their particular situation, but it's to put as much money away as you can to get rid of that debt. But yes, I say get rid of all debt as quickly as you possibly can. Get rid of that debt. Yes.
Right. So something you had just brought up about every day is an interview. Absolutely so spot on. I've been fortunate enough, as Nancy had mentioned, to be involved in a variety of nonprofits. I commend you for your work with the Rosie Network and the Mission Hire Me, focusing on the military. We can't do enough, especially in Southern California, anywhere in this country for that matter, but especially where we live in that area. But I think that, some people don't realize, and you hit the nail on the head on this, You never know who is in that audience. You never know who you're going to meet around the corner. It could have been someone you've been working with for 25 years, and they bring a colleague in a meeting and go, oh my God, I wish I would have met you 25 years ago, and so forth. Just talk about how important it is in that aspect of networking.
Yeah, to me, engaging with people is the single route to success. My entire life, my entire success tree has been built on the backs of other people. I would not be where I am if it wasn't for all the people in my life, starting with my parents, starting with the values that my parents gave me. Going to my college, I am still good friends with at least 30 people that I went to college with. We still keep in touch. We still talk all the time. And by the way, I've invested in several of my friends and have done quite well. And other friends have come to me for words of advice or for things that I can help them with. And we built our fraternity tree on each other's backs. We've all done well with each other. But to make sure that when you present yourself, that you are letting people know that you are open to meeting them, that you're humble, that you enjoy engaging, and that you come in with a smile on your face. When I walk down the street and I see somebody with a smile, there's an opening there. But if you're walking by and somebody's with their head down, and they're looking at their book, or they're looking at their phone, or whatever it is they're doing, there's no chance for engagement. Take advantage of the fact that when you're with other people, you never know who you can learn from, who you can meet, and what that opportunity can present.
So, one of the folks want to know, do you have any good books to recommend?
As a matter of fact, it's my next slide. Here
Right.
are some great books that I've had. Of course, my book, Smarter Minds. It talks about what I've talked about, but in much greater depth, and it's available everywhere. Another fantastic book, which has kind of been my Bible, and I advise everybody to read this book, is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. He recommends a particular index fund. That's not what's important. What's important is how important it is to invest the way he does it. He likes to keep things simple, just as I do. The reason that book resonated with me so much is because it's followed exactly my pattern. And he just said it better than I did. And it's a great, great book. I think everybody should read it. The next is Your Money or Your Life. Another terrific book that talks about juggling life and your money, how you should build the two together. It's a great, great book. The next is Who, Not How, which talks to my networking. It talks about how it's the people that you meet, how to get this done through the different people, more important than how to get it done. I can't tell you that all the businesses that I built, I knew very little about building the businesses. I just knew about the general concept. I knew the 30,000-foot view I had for them, and then I put all the pieces in place with people that were better than me at these different areas. Just keep buying. Proven ways to save money and build wealth. It goes to my spend to become wealthy. It goes to that slide. It teaches you how to keep buying things that will appreciate, things that will be worth much more in a year, 10 years from now, 25 years from now than they are now. And the other is a kind of take us off a little bit, is a great story. It's a true book, a true story by Bill Barnett called Red Notice. And it's a fabulous book. This guy's on CNBC all the time. It talks about his building a business and the interaction he had with Russia and the near fatal meetings he had with Putin. It's a great book, very interesting. My next slide. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you got even more books, huh?
No, I got some podcasts that I want people to listen to. But go ahead. What did you ask about this?
Well, I have one question before you get to the podcast. This comes from a Jennifer. Can you talk a little bit about influence? What are the best ways to increase professional influence in the workplace?
Yeah. So the best way that I have found when I want to influence somebody, again, to go back on something I said, is to build trust. If people trust who you are and they know that you're credible. So for example, when I'm selling my book, I'm not just out there selling my book. I'm selling some of the wisdom that I have within the book. I give some of those tidbits away as freebies to tease them, to say, listen, this is what I offer. Now I want you to read my book. So when people are trying to sell influence, make sure that you're coming in with something that they want to buy. Make sure that they want to understand and trust who you are. And once they do that, you can have great influence on that person.
Excellent. Let's go to those podcasts.
Here are some of the podcasts I listen to. You know, I joke with my kids because I never have music on in my car, except if my kids or my wife are in the car. I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always learning. Here are some of the really good podcasts that I listen to. The Bigger Pockets Money podcast, Minnie Jensen and Scott Trench. I listen to them a couple times a week. The Personal Finance podcast. Nishka is very good. The Stacking Benjamin show. This slide will be available. I'm going to make sure that the folks at National University have this PowerPoint if anybody wants it, but feel free to take pictures of these last two slides. Her Money by Gene Chatsky. Azul Wells. Now, Azul, I like him because he talks about retirement. Most of you are probably too young to care about retirement at this early age, but he has some great lessons on retirement and retirement money and how to live a good life. The Struggle Isn't Real by Cody Sanchez. She's very well known. She was in the finance community for a long, long time, got burnt out of it, and at a very young age started buying laundromats. And she started doing very well. And now she's into buying all these small businesses and has built up an empire. She's done extremely well. And then, of course, most people know Mr. Money Mustache. And he doesn't have a podcast, but he's on podcasts all the time. He's terrific. He's got some great lessons in life. I think you really enjoy what he shows, what he presents.
I think that's great. We got a couple more minutes before I turn it back over to Nancy and Bill. Can you stick around? We have some more questions that folks want to answer, and maybe we can do this in overtime, so to speak.
Absolutely, happy to do it.
Okay, that sounds good. Before we do that, I want to go to another question from Marie. Is how do you tap into creativity and especially create innovation, both professionally and personally, even at first you feel you've plateaued? So how do you do that?
Yeah, so it's surrounding yourself with smarter minds. It's surrounding yourself with people that you admire and people that you respect and the areas that they're really good in that you want to become better in, to connect with them. And let me give you a little piece of advice on connecting with people. Don't connect with people when you need them. Don't go to a bank when you need a loan. Go to a bank before you need a loan. Form relationships before you need the relationship. And I'll give you a quick way to do this. When I start finding out about people that I really respect or that I feel like I may need one day, I start following them. And then I'll write them little notes. Hey, I just read that article that you wrote. I think it's fantastic. And then mention something about the article to make sure that they know you really read the article. Or if somebody wrote a book, I read your book. I think this was a fantastic book on whatever it is. Form a little relationship before you need somebody. And then when the time is right and you know you need somebody, you've already built up a little bit of a rapport with them. Even if it's something that they want on a big trip and you want to comment on their trip, if they're posting on Facebook, go to somebody, build a rapport before you need that person.
Well, I think that's fantastic. It's too bad you're not enthusiastic, Bill.
Yeah.
First of all, your energy is fantastic. I'm going to turn it back over to my longtime friend and colleague, Nancy Rowland, for a few comments. And then if you're willing, Bill, we got a few more questions that we can answer in overtime. All right.
Yeah, happy to.
Nancy, it's all yours.
Thank you. And Bill, this has been so informative. I think that all of our audience has learned a lot and a lot of reminders that they probably, some have heard in the past, but just important to kind of reiterate as regardless of whether early in career, mid-career, facing, retirement, just great lessons to learn, really informative, truly appreciate it. And yes, you have tremendous enthusiasm for it. Appreciate Drew's participation as moderator and really glad that you guys connected and found out that you went to the same high school and overlapped for a few years. That's great. But please, here's the information on how to connect with Bill. So scan that. He's more than happy to have you reach out with him. Have a little bit of information to share with you on some upcoming events, and then we'll go back to a few questions. We do have an Alumni Association meeting coming up next week on the 20th. Virtual research conference 2 days next week. Should be really exciting if you're interested in that. We always have monthly Navigator networking for Navier Navigator, but just giving an opportunity for grads to connect with each other. Again, those personal investments and relationship, super important. You never know who you're going to meet and what opportunities may open up because of that. And additionally, another personal branding and LinkedIn workshop coming up February 26th. And pleased to share that on March 5th, our speaker series will be featuring What is Your Return on Purpose with Sherry Nasom. So looking forward to that, but let's go ahead and move forward and have a few more questions with Drew and Bill. And thanks for those of you that are hanging in there. And I'm sure we'll have some additional interesting insight.
Thanks, Nancy. All right, so Bill, what's the best way to find mentors if one is in their late 30s?
That's actually a great time when you're late 30s, because you built up a little bit of credibility. Hopefully you built up a little bit of a track record. But the best way is to make sure that you reach out to people. And Nancy mentioned LinkedIn before. LinkedIn is a great area, but also the most organic way is through the relationships that you already have. I always tell people when they're going in for an interview or they're going in for a job, whatever it is they're going for, make sure you walk out with a couple of recommendations. Make sure that you walk out with a couple of referrals. So if you're talking to a couple of people, I still do it today. I always say, is this, John, thanks very much for meeting me. I really appreciate it. Is there anybody else you think I should talk to? Because they'll have their own network that you can broach. And that's another way to build. So make sure that whoever you're talking to, walk out with 2 or 3 other names. And you cannot believe how quickly that blossoms out.
I think that's terrific. And this one I think just comes from experience, and sometimes it's hard to pick out. How do you know when your advice is good, bad, or long term or short term? And sometimes you don't know, do you?
Sometimes you do not know. But whenever I get advice about something, I usually run to somebody else and I say, "This is what I've been advised. What do you think?" And once you have 2 or 3 or 4 other people that are a little smarter than you and that can corroborate or dissuade from what you heard, that's how you build up the correct information. But you take what you learn from somebody, run it by 2 or 3 other people, pretty soon it starts to make sense.
Right, exactly. And getting back to the point, you can't have a big enough network. And one of the things that at least I've found successful in my world, and I think as Nancy was telling you, I've been doing a podcast for 19 years. It was called Internet Radio when I started, for God's sake. But is the simple activity, and it makes it a little bit easier when you can do it online or whatever, is saying thank you or somebody who's done something. And just every once in a while, after a month, hey, just want to see how you're doing. Just staying in touch with someone is absolutely so invaluable.
I don't know if you read my book or not, but I talk about that. The two, and I have a section at the end of the book called My Billisms. These are all the sayings that my friends listen to me say all the time. And that's one of the key ones is just say thank you. Show appreciation to other people because it stands out. And I have to tell you, the bar is really low when it comes to comparing to other people. You cannot believe how few people write a thank you note or send a thank you email or follow up. It is so easy to do some of the things that we're talking about that will set you so far above. And showing appreciation, saying thank you, paying compliments to people are some of the easy things you can do to stand out.
Well, you're so spot on. I was just having a conversation with a colleague about it. Something that we just did, many moons ago that was just normal average behavior, to sit there, hold the door open or say thank you, is now done so few that you go, my God, that's amazing. The guy said thank you. You get an A+ for saying thank you? My goodness. Well, that's where it is right now. In terms of networking, for people who maybe they're just not comfortable networking, it really works. And I gotta just tell you something. I know people, well, I'm too shy. I don't know anyone there. Get out there and do it. Talk about that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. It was something I just totally forgot about. The one thing that you need to be successful in life is you need to know how to sell yourself. You need to know how to talk about what you are good at, but more importantly than that, take very simple subjects to start with. How was your day? What do you enjoy doing? Talk about hobbies. it gets it away from the act of networking and more into something that's conversation. Most people feel comfortable with conversation. Where did you go for dinner last night? What team do you root for? What do you like to do for a hobby? If you start in a conversational way, thinking not about networking, just about having a talk, you'll see how easy that moves into networking. All of a sudden, that person says, gosh, I root for the same thing. I grew up in you and I, when we started talking, we grew up in the same area. We went to the same high school. I mean, we both, know how to talk anyway. But that's how. Start with very simple baby steps. Talking about something that's very simple, the weather, the game last night, whatever it is. Talk about something simple. You'll see how quickly you graduate to more impressive conversation.
And Bill, as you well know, you made a lifetime doing this, and I'm sure our audience knows, when you've got that relationship with somebody, and then it goes into a business relationship, and you have that trust factor, because I've been working with Bill, Barnett for years, and I know I have a lot of, cash sort of for in the inventory, the likable inventory. That goes a long way on how you're going to do business with the person, how you're going to forgive some mistakes because it was done inadvertently. That is just so important, Bill, is it not?
It's so important. I mean, the trust factor outweighs everything else. I have friends that come to me all the time with questions or things. I just got a question 2 days ago from somebody that was looking for a referral for somebody. And they came to me. They didn't go to Indeed. They didn't go to LinkedIn. They didn't go to ZipRecruiter. They came to somebody that they knew, and I'm sure they called a few other people, but they went to their network. That's the first thing that I do. And when people are looking for jobs, I'm not huge on these social boards or these kinds of things. I'm much bigger on relationships. So when I talk to somebody and I'm looking for somebody, I know that person, because I trust them, are going to recommend good people to me. And then if they're not open for that job, I'll go to them and I'll say, who else do you recommend? You cannot believe how many jobs I have filled just by talking, starting it out with 1 or 2 conversations. Pretty soon I've got 6 or 8 candidates and I fill the job.
Right. We got one more question for you. I mean, we could continue this until until next year, but we got one more. Do you advocate using social media to network? If so, any tips on how to start?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I advocate for everything building your social network. I mean, I'm a believer in using every means possible, from a coffee or dinner to drinks to LinkedIn. And the way I like to start all of my relationships, because LinkedIn, I think, has changed over the last 10 years. It used to be something personal and people wrote, now it's just a sales tool. Do not sell on LinkedIn. Make personal comments. Whenever I want to start something with somebody, I will always start it with a comment about something they did, something that builds their credibility. Hey, Drew, I read that last article that you wrote, or I listened to that podcast you wrote. It was spot on. It's exactly what I believe in, or whatever it is. Make it personal. Maybe start a little dialogue that way, and that way they'll connect with you. Once you've connected, you can start doing, but do not sell off the bat. In fact, I say don't sell anyway. Become who you are. Build that relationship. Within the building of the relationship, different things will come out, because they'll be interested in what you do, you're interested in what they do, and all of a sudden, kumbaya happens.
Couldn't agree more. Well, Bill, what an absolute pleasure. I know you and I are going to connect offline, to say the least, and catch up with some of our old Pally High School stories and everything in between. And Nancy, I'm just always honored to be a moderator and chat with some wonderful folks like Bill. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. It's been great being with you.
A pleasure to have both of you. I will say that Drew Schlosberg is probably known as one of the best networkers in San Diego County. He builds relationships that are lifetime relationships. He knows that there's always someone that can help him out, refer him. And, we've come across each other's paths many times over the year. I truly endorse a lot of the comments and points that Bill's made to you. I am very big on networking, building relationships. It has paid off for me personally, professionally. It gives me, just a lot of gratitude to have those opportunities to connect with people, but it's the little things that you remember about those individuals that really pay off, where they're from, what they're interested in. As mentioned, it's not just about what their organization is or what they might be able to do in return for you, but it really is building genuine and authentic relationships very early on that opens doors, opens opportunities. And, you know, I've really seen the value in that. And if it's not something that comes naturally, you know, again, it's one of those things that you have to put yourself out there, you have to practice and, you know, do it within your comfort zone, but you will find that there's a lot of ROI on that investment. So thank you so much. Appreciate those who are still on. Feel free to listen again or refer this NU Speaker Series to one of your friends. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Special
everybody.
thanks to Heather and Lindsay for helping promote, coordinate, and executing on our NU Speaker Series. Good night.